How you doing, YouTube? Matt with Matt's Beer Reviews back with, I don't know, a little channel update goodness. Let's go goodness. That makes sense. Yeah, so it's been a bit. I did one of these probably about a month or so before I went on my Vermont trip, aka I got married. And I talked about, it wasn't so much a channel update, it was so much more of a kind of like, what do you want to see? From channels and my trip and that whole kind of thing. So it's been about a month and a half since I've gotten back from my honeymoon and trip and all that stuff. So I figured I'd do a little channel thing because there's a lot of stuff going on in a good way. So we'll get to that. A little sippy poo first. So first things first, I got married. It's awesome. You actually, first time you saw my my wife is I did a review on the road of Spotted Cow from The Alchemist. She ended up being on camera for the whole thing. She's not a beer reviewer, but she's pretty awesome. So yeah, got married, went up there. First off, the wedding was fantastic. I ended up having a bunch of good people show up. I actually ended up having some people I actually met through YouTube come to my wedding. That's how I met some pretty cool people over the years from doing the whole beer tubing thing. So that in of itself was pretty crazy. But the wedding itself was awesome. Ended up, just being super simple. You know what I mean? We're simple people. We had it on a farm here. I ended up raining all day, but we had a great time. Ended up having some really good beers. I'll tell a story about that real quick. But ended up getting 3 kegs of beer. I ended up getting a keg of Jenny Cream, quarter keg of Jenny Cream Ale. Thank you very much. And because Jenny Cream fucked the world. I ended up getting a keg of Equilibrium. They're called there Tomorrow, I think. It was a 4% hazy pale ale that was fucking perfect for a wedding. I ended up getting a sixtel of, what was it? A Pilsner from District 96. First things first, thank you, those guys, for hooking me up with kegs. You know what I mean? It's not something I typically do. But, ended up being perfect. Literally the exact amount of beer I needed for my wedding, which was pretty fucking crazy. Like, to the point where, like, I had the wedding. I had a bunch of bottles and cans and all that stuff. But laid out for anybody that wanted to take them. We'll get to that in a second. But I had, those 3 kegs out and, hooked everything up. Everybody had a great time at the end of the night. I was kind of cleaning up, and I was like, I'm gonna have one more beer. Ended up like pouring the Equilibrium one, and it got halfway through the cup, and it kicked. And I was like, oh, well, that beer's dead. I guess that's good. Drank that, went home. Next morning, came back, went to clean up again before I left for my honeymoon because DIY, baby, and everything was still on ice. And I was like, I guess I should have a glass of beer to start the day, and halfway through that, the District 96 Pilsner kicked. So I literally had the exact same amount of beer. There's a little bit left in the Jenny Cream keg, but it ended up working out perfect. But like I said, I brought a bunch of beers out and about. Some beers that people sent me in beer mails and stuff like that, I just brought and just kind of had out there for people to drink. But it was this one dude, and I gotta say this because it was pretty funny, because it was like I put out a bunch of beers for a wedding. I was like, I broke shit out of my cellar, and I'm like, I'm just putting out everything. Cause, I just assumed everybody would be like, okay, everything's, be reasonable about things. There was this old head, super nice guy. It wasn't a bad thing. I didn't get peeved over it. But I'm like, I put in a bunch of beers, and I'm, got married, and I'm walking around, and I'm talking to people, whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna go grab a beer. I go over, and I'm like, where'd all the good beer go? I'm like, holy shit, like 5 of like the super crazy bottles, like OG Sukaba, OG fucking barrel aged Flying Mouflon, like, are gone. I'm like, what happened? I'm looking around, and there's this old gray haired guy by himself sitting at the table, just like sitting there grooving to some music, like just chugging fucking Sukaba and fucking barrel aged Flying Mouflon. I'm like, this dude's crushing all. So I grabbed a couple bottles off there and kind of hit him. Just I was like, okay, there's stuff I wanted to share with some of my guests. But I was like, he ended up being a super nice guy. I didn't know who he was. But I ended up like pouring some beers later, came over, and I'm like, I heard you like the malty stuff, and poured it. And he's like, oh, that's really good stuff. But it was a good day. I had a great day. Got married to a beautiful woman. You met her, like I said, in the whole video that I did up there. But she also has a YouTube channel. if you subscribe to this channel and you like yarn, or your significant other likes yarn, you can go check it out. Buckaloo View, at Buckaloo View on Instagram and all that stuff. And Liesel's awesome. She's probably the coolest person I ever met in my life. So we had a good time at the wedding. We venture up to Vermont, and when I led up to that, I was like, okay, what do you guys want to see when I go up there? And I was like, do you want to see me doing kind of brewery kind of like walkthroughs or interviews and all that kind of stuff? And I recorded some stuff kind of driving up there. It was a 5.5 hour drive, so I did a couple like B-roll things to where I was like, scenery and me talking and things like that. And then recorded a couple things while I was on the trip, but after about a day and a half, I stopped because I realized I just wanted to be there. I think that's a big portion of what I do nowadays when it comes to like brewery things and stuff like that. I just want to be in the moment. It's the reason why I don't use Untapped. It's a reason why I don't do a lot of brewery videos. I recorded some stuff. Will you see it? I don't know. I might have to edit it. I don't know if it's going to be a thing where if I just post it blankly, it's going to make sense. But I recorded some stuff. But it was just more like again, I'm on my honeymoon. I'm trying to disconnect from that. Not that I want to disconnect from my honeymoon, but at the same time, there's some stuff I'm going to have fun with, and part of that fun is me doing beer stuff. And I thought it would be fun to do beer stuff while doing that. But it was more like I want to experience these moments for myself. I don't want to have to worry about a camera. I don't want to have to worry about talking. I just want to experience stuff. So after about a day and a half, I just decided, you know what, I'm just not really going to record much of anything. If I'm going to record anything at all, it's going to be more of kind of a quick beer review like I did with Liesel, or like I did at the other place I did when I reviewed a Hill Farmstead beer and stuff like that. Just enjoyed myself. So, I talked about what you guys wanted to see when I actually went on that trip. And while I had good intentions of doing some stuff, it just didn't really pan out. Why? Because I didn't want to. That is basically the long and short of it. So there you go. I didn't want to. So come back. Went in the biggest string of bad luck in my life. Like literally broke my ankle, broke a rib, broke my knee. Oh, sprained my knee. Broke the other 3 things. Just, random chance. My car blew up too. So, shit went crazy. But came back and kind of get my stuff settled, as you typically do when you come back. And then kind of headed back full force doing a bunch of beer stuff. I've mentioned a couple times I do the podcasting thing I do, and kind of went, started scheduling. Now that we're about 3-4 weeks removed from the wedding and stuff like that, I've actually been putting a lot of effort into getting the podcasting thing going. Still doing the beer reviews. Probably going to dial those back a little bit, maybe do them about 5 times a week, 4 or 5 times a week, as opposed to 7 days a week. Just because drinking less, kind of losing a couple of lbs, all that kind of stuff. But also doing the podcasting thing, which I think it fulfills a little bit more kind of bits and pieces of what I want to do. I'm not going to stop doing the YouTube stuff at all. That's never going to fucking end. So I'm going to still do the beer review stuff, minimum for 5 days a week, but I'm going to start kind of focusing on that more. So I came back and after a while started like really kind of jumping into like kind of scheduling brewers to be interviewed. While I was up in Vermont, I actually ended up interviewing John Kimmich of The Alchemist. It was probably by far and away the best interview I've ever done. Best experience I've had with a brewer doing an interview or anything like that. Has hung out for about 2 hours in his office with him and his snoring dogs, and just talked about beer, and he was candid but passionate, and it was absolutely fantastic. One of my favorite things I've done beer wise. So ended up doing that and came back and kind of had a fuel for doing all that. So came back and started booking people. You know what I mean? Just did CJ from Penzone from Wall and Potback Brewing, relatively close to me, but super cool brewery that's doing a bunch of different things. So if you're in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, it's worth checking out the interview, or just going to Wall and Potback Brewing, checking that out, because they're doing. I really enjoy what they're doing there. Not necessarily that they're close and CJ's like a super cool dude. Or doing fun stuff, and then just kind of scheduling stuff going forward. Ended up actually going on a podcast myself. Ended up going on Steal This Beer. It's actually one of my favorite podcasts. It was pretty cool to actually go on there. To be perfectly honest with you, as a guest as opposed to being a podcaster. When I did my radio show Beerwise in the past, I interviewed Augie Carton from Carton Brewing, and also when I did a radio show, I interviewed John Hall. At that time, it was All About Beer magazine. Now it's a Beer and Brewing magazine. He's one of the preeminent, butchered that, but yeah, whatever. Beer writers in the United States. And they do a podcast together, and it's called Steal This Beer. I think it's probably my favorite beer podcast by far out of the 19 billion of them out there. And ended up lucky enough to actually go on there as a guest. And they ended up interviewing me, and ended up turning around interviewing Augie again for the podcast. But they ended up interviewing me about, the whole, beer tubing, YouTubing, and podcasting thing and all that stuff. So I had a blast. And they do it on location. It has to be live. There's no, recording and stuff like that. Drove out to Jersey City and Arcade. And actually at 5 o'clock, if you watch the podcast, it was oddly enough, it was actually literally 5 o'clock on a Monday. And ended up sitting there for an hour, hung out, and drank a bunch of beers, brought a couple beers. The cool thing is, when they do this podcast that they do, the shtick is, one of the shticks is they you have to bring beers with you when you go on a podcast, but they don't know them and they drink them blind, kind of like I do my mystery beer Monday. But the big thing about it is they actually drink them completely blind. As they have a black glass, they have no idea what they're drinking. So I brought 2 beers on. One was pretty easily discernible. If you kind of been around for a while, you can kind of figure it out. The other one was, they kind of gushed over, and it was a brewery that I'm a big fan of that they didn't know about. So it was kind of awesome to kind of show them that brewery, and hopefully they end up having that person on their show. But it was a cool experience to go out there and hang out with Augie and John and do the whole kind of podcasting thing. Like I said, it was weird to be on the other end of the spectrum. Usually the person asking the questions, to be asked the questions are is a unique experience. So it was fun to do Steal This Beer, but then immediately I have stuff coming up. So moving into the future, beer reviews are not going to go anywhere. I have a bunch of awesome stuff coming up. I got some Daredevil stuff, just did a beer review of that. Some Evolution Brewing, a little bourbon barrel aged stuff. We're running the gamut, man. A little Axel Rosé, a little bit of Berliner Weiss, but mystery beer wise, stuff is still coming. Or stuff has came. That's pretty fucking awesome. Mystery beers, people love them. They're probably one of my universally loved beer reviews. Oddly enough, though, I have an habitual thumb downer now, which is pretty awesome. I love that. I used to have a thumb down every now and then. Now I pretty much get thumb downs on any mystery beers or unboxings, which is I'm fucking ecstatic about. More thumbs down, the better. So people give me thumbs down. Thank you very much. But the mystery beers are coming well, but at the same time, I have about 4 in my fridge. That's 2 weeks going. So I have about 4 weeks after the ones I have recorded right now. So I have about a month's worth of mystery beers left. So I will say this. If you want to send me mystery beers, reach out to me, massivebeers@gmail.com. If you send me a mystery beers, I will sing your praises. I won't send you anything else because I'm poor. I'm not poor, but it's just... It's hard to send beer to everybody that sends me beers, so I just need mystery beers. Send them to me. I'll drink them. They either butcher them or I'll do pretty well kind of explaining them, which is more often than not. Joe from the Beer Patrol, for those that aren't out there watching that guy right now, go the Beer Patrol, so it's PA Troll. The Beer Patrol up there in close to Buffalo, New York, or in Buffalo, New York. He's an awesome dude. He's starting doing beer reviews. He's going to start doing mystery beers, and he's going to call it Whodunits, I think, or something like that. And he actually made a comment about how I get them, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, more times in the middle somewhere. I get them more right than not, motherfuckers. So anyway, I don't want to talk about that right now. I'm kind of heated over that argument, but or statement, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so yeah, mystery beers. Send me mystery beers so I can keep doing them. And what else is left? Oh, podcast stuff. Not me being on Steal This Beer, but me moving forward. I have a bunch of brewer interviews kind of lined up. I'm going to be going this Saturday and interviewing Josh Bushy, Two Rivers Brewing, down in Easton, PA. I've loved their beers for about a year or so now. Very underrated brewery in Easton, PA, and an old bar I used to actually hang out in every now and then when I lived in Easton over 10 years ago. The following weekend I have Cypress Brewing out in Jersey. Their newer brewery coming up. We're going to do an interview with them. We're going to actually go down there on their anniversary weekend and do an interview with them. Elementary Brewing, which is out in Hackensack Brewing. Actually had an interview set up with them, but like I said, I broke my ankle, so I had to reschedule. But we're gonna get those guys back, rescheduled, get them going. I have a bunch of other brewers who are interested in doing that stuff. So if you watch this, if you like the YouTube stuff, if you dig it, or you hate it, either way, I don't care. As long as you listen and you rate, go to the iTunes, the Stitcher, the what else is there? Google Play, Podbeans of the world, the SoundClouds of the world, all that stuff. Look up Beer Massif, Beer Massif. Subscribe, all that stuff. I have a ton of brewer interviews that I've done in the past. I have a bunch of new ones I've done now. I've been putting editorials up that I've done on here on YouTube and other stuff like that. We're doing roundtables with some of my friends and things like that. So a lot of good stuff going on. So YouTube, beer reviews, not going anywhere. Probably cut it back maybe about 5 days a week, just so I have more time to do other things. Steal This Beer, check that out. It's probably going to be a couple weeks. I'm guessing this is the end of June, probably the second week of July. I assume it's going to come out. I might just end up pulling the audio and posting it on here, and then posting the reverse interview where I end up interviewing Augie about his brewery and stuff like that, and kind of doing back to back on here. You'll see. And then mystery beers, keep that shit going, and Beer Massive stuff going in the future. Check out the whole podcasting stuff, and there you go. A little bit of updates. Sorry I didn't deliver content for Vermont, but just kind of wanted to enjoy myself. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this little rundown. Hopefully you enjoyed this little catch up. Hopefully you enjoyed a nice little bevy right now, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.